Nilce, yes, I'm talking to you, free traveler of knowledge. You, the seeker of flowers' nectar. You might be wondering, what is this place? Who created it? And what should I expect from it? To better answer your questions, join me for a quick flight through INASCA's virtual Ameyalli. To say that the ancient Toltecame of most Anahuac nations were highly appreciative of water and its properties, it's an understatement. A more accurate definition is that original Anahuac nations consider water a sacred entity, a moon sister, the many-layered dress of Tlazochnantzin. For Nahuatl or Grey Masters of Harmony, water was one of the main symbols for knowledge and its essence. The qualities of adaptability, transparency, strength, and tranquility apply into the mother of all life. As for Tunsavi or people of the clouds, water in the shape of clouds and rain was so deeply rooted that even defined their identity as nation. People who learn how to join in a mutualist relationship with their surroundings and master the way of life in which they belong to the water and the earth instead of thinking that nature belonged to them. Water is to living beings as knowledge is to our upper and central hearts, that in the same manner helps it to sprout, grow roots, mature, and blossom. This concept is of crucial need now more than ever to recall and comprehend that the cycle of water and the cycle of life are the same, and that if we pollute, disrespect, and disdain the importance of its purity, we are doing it towards life itself. To say that access to knowledge allow Anahuacan nations to evolve and grow in a similar way that the access to fresh water does to every ecosystem begs a necessary question. How can such knowledge be kept clean, fresh, and most importantly, consistently flowing? The answer might have at least two options. One, by spending again thousands of years in detailed study and contemplation of the original sources of knowledge and wisdom we call nature. And two, by filtering and cleaning the knowledge that survive in a moshtin, oral tradition, historical texts, and matching it with nature's undeniable confirmations of such knowledge. This was already achieved by these original Anahuacan nations by raising individuals with the necessary qualities to study, dig, and filter such knowledge, as well as document and embodying it. This, in most cases, was done from the earliest stages of their life and became a self sustainable model, and even in contemporary times can be found, although every time is more rare. Since individuals are seldom taught to conceive themselves as a medium for collective goals and not only for self service of their personal importance over others, to perceive themselves as the clay vessel in which this water must be poured, contained, and transported, and although its benefits are immediately evident in the clay vessel, its main purpose is so that others can drink and quench their thirst from it. Personally, I lack the journey in search for purpose that my brothers and sisters, whom I share this cosmic moment with, goes through, since mine was never a doubt or an alternative. Ever since I can recall, I have been irresistibly drawn towards the Amoshtin and every single remnant of Toltec knowledge. There was always something about these symbols that made me feel the certainty of foundation, stability, and direction. It was by the influence of my father that such thirst was quenched at the beginning, at my first home, Calpuli de Difusión Cultural Atlachinoli. It was also by his wise and selfless love that still during my childhood I was entrusted to the Ocelot Lamartini from Toltecayotl, just so I could be molded and varnished like a clay jar by the sensible heart and mind of the Ocelot that places his claws together, Matlactli Ocelotl, to later be baked under the rigorous heat of warrior disciplines and strict guidance. At the Huitzilopochtli birth ceremony of 1988 at Xochitepec, I received the Itocailistli, or Siembra de Nombre, and under the guidance and advice of my mentors and parents, I chose the name that to this date I try my best to honor. I was only 8 years old. If I must be honest, it wasn't my favorite of four options of potential names given back then. But after all these years, I realized that there was never any other name for this clay vessel, since consciously or unconsciously, little did I know that it would be my main utility and purpose in life. Mother and father water, at times transparent, at times reflective like a mirror, and at times of a radiant blue turquoise. A precious water that for the last 22 years we have been carrying as a much needed element for our evolution. You might be wondering, how much water can the Akashic hold? How much was it pouring to him? To be honest, not even I can tell the exact amount. Many times I still find myself gathering water from my fathers and mothers. Those who have known me since my childhood and teenage know that I always procure this water as the most sacred treasure. Little did I know that, same as the real water, if you don't allow it to flow, benefit others with it, and let it find its eventual path to the river, it will also become stagnant and potentially toxic for yourself. In 1999, I was asked by my fathers to share, to let the water within flow onto other vessels. I must say, my performance was at the beginning a messy and difficult one at best. But one of the most consistent teachings of such experience was that water, once you make it flow abundantly, has the capability to create new rivers from the arid ground until it forms lakes and ponds, and from there, new ecosystems may develop. Eventually, the heat that radiates as a result of flowing through knowledge allow the water to evaporate and ascend, turning into clouds that allowed from an elevated understanding, making that which I thought to be my world turn into only a relatively small part of a much bigger environment. And as the perception that leads to clarity soon will also lead to new questions, and with it, to a more specific ignorance, making us fall once more as we dismantle our own identity. The clouds turn into heavy rain, diluting the once cotton flower like being into a faceless body made out of countless water fragments, defined only by the marks on the soil that openly absorbed it drop by drop, reincorporating as a single body only after it sifted through the thick layers of Tlazohnantzin skin, rocks, and even remains of our ancestors in Mictlan, a process that took 13 years of digging and filtering the knowledge, process that led us to find one of the places where water is born, a place where water isn't polluted or mixed with anything else than the vibration of the crystallized rock that contains it, an intense stream of water that is gathered under the deep caves of Yowali to later emerge with an intimidating and uncontainable force as the Ameyalli of mindfulness. Can the human mind lose its identity in sake of elevate? Can it abandon its human vessel and transmigrate while in life? Although a possible and at times necessary task, also a confusing and terrifying one. Similar to that was the journey that many to who now root themselves to the Ameyali had to face, and I was not the exception. To realize that a flag, a vessel, a title, or rank will not suffice the necessary room from the water like knowledge to flow, but instead will be a constriction, a sort of dam in which water might be detained and privatized. Here is where these questions become our life compass. Do you possess the inner constitution, the conviction to become a permanent resident of the water spring? Would you be able to live and grow like the water tree, like the ahuehuetl, an elder without flag, without title or rank? Will you survive without drowning or become bitter by the unending cold currents of the Ameyali? Those are the questions for each one of us to answer privately, to find out who we have the constitution to become in this virtual ecosystem. This might not be the most poetic part of our journey. However, it's an essential one in order to transform the nature of our concepts and perception. We strongly believe that water, both physical and inner, must not be privatized, that its value and importance to evolution surpasses any price scale, and we are often criticized since some people seems to think that freedom equals free of cost. And although human beings were the creators of money as a currency of exchange of services, it is also truth that in nature nothing is free of cost. Everything, every plant, every flower, every insect, and every animal knows that for their survival there is a high cost to pay and that they have to work in community, in mutualism, rather than become parasites of their environment, since only parasites drains its host before they move to the next. Animals and plants understand that there should be an exchange for every benefit they receive. Ancient nations understood the concept of service, and unfortunately, since we live in these times, there is very few other ways in which we can do this virtually without the exchange of the value of your work for the value of our work. It is a natural behavior that each must define and act on it. Will you become a bee, a butterfly, a deer, a rabbit, or an ahuehuete, a plant with luscious flowers, a fish, or something that will suck the resources, that will only drain the host, and then moving into the next one, making sure that the host is dead? This is where we are trying for this platform to be extremely different than any social media platform. Since the design of social media is built so people look for acceptance, for appreciation, or for creating a fake persona, thinking that they have to constantly be sharing in order for them to gain fame, recognition, and validation. Hopefully, this virtual Ameyalli will keep its peace and its tranquility for most time. As you can see, there is not a need for oversharing here. As you can see, we appreciate every single cheer you give to the posts, but also we can appreciate those who are here in silence. We appreciate the kind comments since they don't mean to pollute, to contaminate, or to block any of the flow that is naturally occurring in this virtual Ameyali. Feel free to find your place. Feel free to define what part of this ecosystem will you occupy. We are most grateful for you to be here, appreciative of your energy, of your time, and most importantly, for the amazing and unique opportunity of sharing cosmic time with you. From the bottom of my heart, welcome and thank you. Make sure that you benefit from this place, but also make sure that you contribute, whether you are looking for this water as your main nourishment, whether you are looking for this water to carry it to your own plants, to your own land, whether this water comes to you in the most critical time of need, or you're looking for this water as a base to mix it with something else, feel free to do so. That's what the water is here for. Or whether you are here to become an ahuehuete, and soon you will discover that the seed you have in you requires constantly to be nearby the water, and eventually to guard it, to live among it, then I will see you for the rest of our time. It was a pleasure to have you in this quick flight, traveler of knowledge, seeker of flowers' nectar. I wish you have a fortifying experience. Lazo Kamati.